When Lucas Wentworth lifted the veil from the stranger's face, his heart stopped. She was the woman he had buried 14 years ago. But she was no ghost from the past. She was a living threat to the present, and his entire empire was about to crumble. Rockland greeted autumn the way it greeted everything in its life, with icy indifference. Fog rolled in from the Atlantic in heavy waves, swallowing the cliffs and erasing the horizon. At the crest of one of those cliffs, like a crown on a king's head, stood Grey Rock Manor, a Gothic monument to power, built from dark stone and 3 generations of Wentworth pride. In the chapel on the estate's eastern wing, light fell through stained glass windows in cold blue streaks. Amelia Lawrence stood before a mirror in a wedding dress that cost more than her father had earned in a lifetime. It was white, laced, with an endless train. Perfect, like everything else about a day that should never have happened. Her hands trembled, not from excitement, but from a cold that came not from the November outside, but from inside her own body, from her very core. Somewhere beyond the manor's thick walls, 20 bodyguards waited in the reception hall, 4 teams of 5, 5 for each side. Her brother Nathan had taken $400,000 from the wrong pocket, and now she was the one paying the price. "Debt is settled by marriage," Lucas Wentworth had told her father on the phone 3 weeks earlier. His voice had been calm, almost friendly, if not for the undercurrent running beneath every word. Lucas did not threaten. He simply spoke the language her family had always feared but never learned. Her father had agreed, not because he wanted to. He wanted nothing more than to take his daughter home, back above the little bakery that smelled of bread and warm milk. He agreed because the Wentworths were not people you negotiated with. The Wentworths were law, written in ink no one ever saw yet everyone dreaded. A maid, young, expressionless, helped Amelia into white lace gloves. Not a word. There were never words, only movements, only silence heavier than any scream. The clock struck the hour. The wedding was to begin precisely at 2. The chapel was frigid. Stone floor, wooden pews, a black marble altar. An enormous crucifix loomed above it, and for the 1,000th time in her life, Amelia thought Jesus was looking at her with a compassion she did not deserve. The organ began, slow, solemn, inexorable. The bride walked the aisle. Her father's hand rested on her elbow, not supporting but restraining, as though she might bolt at any moment. Maybe she could have. And then she saw him. Lucas Wentworth stood at the altar in a Brioni tuxedo. 4 gold rings gleamed on his left hand, 1 for each generation of family heads, hair black as coal, perfect, eyes the cold gray of the Atlantic beyond the windows. 29 years old, and in those years he had killed 2 enemies, ruined 4 rival families, and become the youngest head of the Wentworth dynasty in a century. His face was motionless, a statue, ice and stone, until the veil. The priest, an old man with a white beard who had served the Wentworths for 40 years, spoke words no one listened to, vows, oaths, words that turned Amelia into Mrs. Wentworth. Lucas took her hand. His fingers were ice despite the new ring he slid onto hers, a diamond the size of a quail's egg, enormous, cold, beautiful, like Lucas himself. "Repeat after me," he whispered. Even the whisper sounded like a command. Amelia repeated. Then came the words she had dreaded most. "You may kiss the bride." Lucas lifted the veil. His face froze, literally froze, as if time itself had stopped. His gray eyes drank in her features, her skin, her hair, and something shifted behind them, something that looked like pain. He did not move, just stared. "Lucas?" The maid's uncertain voice came from behind him, the first trace of emotion Amelia had heard all day. Lucas closed his eyes for one heartbeat. Then they opened again, and the cold returned. Cold always returns. He leaned in and brushed her lips with a kiss that was not a kiss. It was a cancellation, a seal, a verdict. power expressed through touch. When he pulled away, his voice was as calm as ever. "Welcome to Grey Rock, Mrs. Wentworth." The car was black. Of course it was black. Everything in Lucas's life was black. Suits, cars, thoughts, perhaps his soul too. They drove the coastal road while Amelia stared out the window at nothing. The fog was so thick it felt as though the car were gliding through an endless cloud. "Your brother," Lucas said, slicing the silence like a blade through silk. "Nathan, did he ever tell you what he stole?" Amelia did not answer. Her throat was too dry. $400,000 from a port warehouse, our port warehouse. Lucas kept his eyes on the road, knuckles white on the wheel. He thought no one would notice, thought they were just numbers. He never understood that stealing from the Wentworths is a capital crime. "He made a mistake," Amelia said quietly. "Everyone makes mistakes. The question is how they're corrected." Lucas turned his head, and his gray eyes were bottomless, empty, cold wrapped around her heart. "Your family corrects this one by marrying me, and you, Amelia, will start a new life. It would be unwise to resent it." The manor emerged from the fog like a phantom. Grey Rock Estate was not a house. It was a fortress. Towers, walls, windows like the eyes of long-dead ghosts. Built at the end of the 19th century by some mad industrialist, later bought by the first Wentworth patriarch, it was now a museum of power, a monument to wealth and fear. Lucas cut the engine. They sat in silence, staring at the house. "This is your home now," he said. "Grey Rock. It will be your prison, your fortress, your grave, depending on how you behave." "I don't understand," Amelia whispered. "You will." He stepped out of the car. She scrambled after him, her white train dragging across the stone. Inside, the cold was worse than outside, colder than the chapel, colder than her heart. Endless corridors, dark walls lined with portraits of strangers, hard-faced men, hollow-eyed women. The Wentworth history painted in oil and blood, though Lucas was right. The blood never showed. Her room was in the eastern tower, large, beautiful. The bride was meant to feel cherished. A four-poster bed with a canopy, a mahogany vanity, books on the shelves, a fireplace full of coal, but unlit. No one had thought the bride might want warmth on her wedding night. "You'll stay here," Lucas said. His voice echoed off the walls like a crypt. 3 maids and 4 guards on this floor, 4 more on the stairs. You do not leave without escort. You do not call anyone without my permission. You do not touch the internet without my knowledge. You belong to Grey Rock now, and Grey Rock belongs to me. "I'm not a slave," she said. "No." He stepped closer. She stepped back. His eyes were dangerous. "You're a wife. That's worse. Slaves can be freed. Wives are forever." He was at the door when she found the note. Under the pillow. A small white sheet written in an emotionless hand. "You are not the first, and you will not be the last." Her hand shook. "Not the first?" "Lucas," she called, but the door was already locked, and only her own echo answered from the empty corridors of Grey Rock, lonely as forgotten catacombs. The first night in Grey Rock was the longest of Amelia's life. The wall clock ticked like a dying animal's heart. She lay on the vast bed, still in her wedding dress. She had never changed, and listened to the house breathing its nightlife. Footsteps in corridors, muffled voices, a door opening and closing somewhere below, and always, always, the crash of waves against the rocks far beneath. Around 4 in the morning, she finally slept. She woke to bright sun and a maid setting out breakfast. She wasn't hungry, but she ate because she didn't know what else to do. Eggs, bacon, orange juice, coffee perfectly hot. Everything perfect, except her life. After breakfast, she decided to explore. The maid, a young woman named Claire, tried to stop her. "You shouldn't walk alone, Mrs. Wentworth." "I just want to look." Claire shrugged and followed. The house was a labyrinth. Staircases led to unexpected places. Corridors branched like veins. Dark parquet creaked beneath their feet, giving the impression the entire manor was alive, breathing, watching. Portraits everywhere, gold everywhere, cold, alienated beauty. On the third floor, west wing, she found a door unlike the others. A name was painted on it. Ava Marino. A chill gripped Amelia's spine. "Mrs. Wentworth, you mustn't be here," Claire said, voice suddenly frightened. But Amelia was already opening the door. Inside, time had frozen. The bed was made with dusty lace. Books lay open on the bedside table. A 2011 Vogue, a Paula Hawkins novel, a volume of Sylvia Plath. On the vanity sat a lamp and jewelry. Pearl necklace, silver earrings. A watch stopped at 2:37. Thousands of hours frozen in that moment. On the wall hung a portrait of a young woman. Beautiful, dark-haired, with the same face shape as Amelia, the same eyes. Amelia stepped closer, nose almost touching the canvas. It was her face, younger from another lifetime, another world where Ava Marino had been Dominic Wentworth's bride, and alive. Quick, heavy footsteps in the corridor. Lucas appeared in the doorway, and Amelia had never seen him like this. His icy control was shattered. Face pale, lips a thin line, eyes burning with frozen fire. "Get out," he said, voice lower than usual, more terrifying than any shout. "Who was she?" Amelia asked. "Get out, now." "Lucas, He stepped toward her. She retreated. His fists were clenched. "Do not touch what you do not understand," he said, voice cold as the Atlantic, as a grave, as oblivion. "This room is sealed. To you, to everyone. Never, never again." They stood facing each other, the world's pain between them. "Who was she?" Amelia whispered. Lucas turned away, his profile a statue of grief. "No one," he said. "She was no one. And now she is dead." Amelia left the room. Lucas followed, and the door shut with a click that sounded like a coffin lid closing forever. That night, another note appeared, on her vanity beside her brush. One word written with such hatred the letters seemed alive. Demon. Beside it lay a photograph, old, yellowed. Ava Marino with her eyes gouged out. So brutally the paper was torn. Amelia screamed. Maids rushed in, guards rushed in, but no one could help. She was trapped in a house where time had stopped 14 years ago, where the dead watched from portraits, where secrets hung in the air like Atlantic fog. When Lucas arrived, his face was scorched with rage. "She's being moved," he told Claire. Less than an hour later, Amelia was relocated to apartments on the second floor's eastern side. Her new room was just as grand, just as beautiful. But the adjoining wall belonged to Lucas's suite. When she returned that evening, the connecting door stood open. Lucas stood in the doorway, freshly shaved, dressed in black, hair still damp, his voice calm, the calm of a statue. "Now you sleep on the other side of this wall. Safer, for both of us. No one enters or leaves without my knowledge, and no one can harm you while you are beside me." "I'm afraid," Amelia said. "Good," Lucas replied. "Fear is what keeps the living alive. Fear is what separates the living from the dead." The door closed, not fully. Amelia could see faint light from his rooms. For hours she listened to his movements, his breathing, his solitude. Somewhere in the house on the third floor, Ava Marino's portrait hung in darkness, staring straight ahead. Her gouged eyes saw nothing. Perhaps that was mercy. Perhaps blindness was the only way to survive Grey Rock. On the 8th day after the wedding, Amelia heard cars arriving before dawn. Black vehicles pulled up like crows claiming the coast. Men in expensive suits with cold faces and colder eyes stepped onto the porch. Guards took positions like ancient statues, ready to protect or destroy. Claire brought a dress, long black neckline exposing the fragility of Amelia's throat. On the table lay jewelry, diamond necklace and earrings that burned with cold fire. "What is this?" Amelia asked. "The council," Claire said. "The council of 5 families. They gather only for extraordinary occasions. This is important." Lucas entered her room without knocking. He wore a tuxedo that radiated power, hair perfect, face a mask of icy control. "You will stay at my side all evening," he said. "Not a request, an order. You will sit beside me, smile, be the perfect wife. You will speak only if I speak first. You will not look frightened. You will not look weak. You will look ready to kill for me and die for me. Understood?" "I'm not an actress," Amelia said. Lucas stepped close. He took her chin, gently yet firmly enough that she could not move. "No," he agreed. "You are not an actress. You must be something more. You must be the reflection of my power, the reason other men envy me, their fear." When they descended to the great hall, every head turned. 40 people, all in black, all measuring her with cold eyes. Whispers, not words, but tones, surprise, calculation, recognition. The dining table was vast, dark wood. On either side of Lucas sat the 4 other heads of families, older, more dangerous, faces that had seen oceans of pain, crime, death. Giovanni Morelli, 70, patriarch of the Southern family, trembling hands, dagger-sharp eyes. Thomas O'Brien, Irish boss, red face, white hair. Victor Sokolov, Russian authority, scar from eye to chin. Alfredo Castillo, Mexican baron, young, beautiful, lethal, and Lucas, the 5th. Dinner was endless. Speeches, toasts, discussion of business, ports, networks, the shadowed places ordinary people never saw. Then, as coffee and cognac were served, a soldier appeared in the doorway. He looked terrified, an experienced guard, terrified. He placed a newspaper on the table, old, faded. Headline: "The Mystery of Ava Marino's Disappearance. Accident? Murder? Where is Dominic Wentworth's bride?" The photograph was Ava, young, beautiful, smiling, the same Ava whose portrait hung in the sealed room. The hall froze. Lucas rose. No one looked at him. They looked anywhere else. Looking at Lucas in that moment was fatal. He seized the paper, tore it to shreds with force that said he was tearing fate itself. "Who brought this into my house?" His voice so low people leaned in to hear. "Who dares play with me?" Silence. Lucas sat again and looked at Amelia. Her face reflected his rage, his pain, his madness. Then, without looking away, he took her hand, publicly, before the heads of the 5 families, before his entire world. His fingers laced through hers, a gesture greater than touch, a declaration, a threat, protection, war. He did not release her hand for the rest of the evening. She sat beside him, her small hand in his large one, while the hall watched and tried to understand. Who was she? Why was her hand held like a holy relic? After the guests left, Lucas led her to the library, a room she had never seen, floor-to-ceiling books, a roaring fireplace. He stood before the flames, back to her, silent for a long time. "Ava Marino was my brother's fiancée," he said at last, "Dominic's. They were to marry 7 days later, but the day before the wedding, Dominic's yacht exploded in the harbor. Officially, an accident. The papers said accident. In our world, there are no accidents, only wars disguised as accidents." He turned. Amelia saw the pain he kept buried deep. Ava vanished. On the wedding day, she was simply gone. I searched for 3 years, every day, every night, every city, airport, port in North America. She evaporated like smoke. "And your brother?" Amelia asked. "My brother was weak," Lucas answered coldly. "The yacht was meant for both of them. I never knew if he was aboard when it blew. Maybe yes, maybe no. No trace remained. Only water, fire, silence." Amelia remembered the 3rd-floor room, bed untouched for 14 years. Clock stopped at 2:37. "Why my face?" she asked. "Why do I look like her?" Lucas stepped close. His hand brushed her cheek, almost tender. "I don't know," he said, "but when I lifted your veil in the chapel, I thought the world had given her back to me. That fate had played its final joke, or shown mercy. I still can't decide which." "It could be dangerous," Amelia whispered. "Someone might use it against you." Lucas smiled, the smile of a man who had calculated every outcome and was ready to kill anyone in his path. "Let them try," he said. That night, Amelia lay listening to him work in the next room. Phone calls, voices, orders. War had begun in Grey Rock, though no guns were visible, no shots heard. War lived in silence, in shadows, in newspapers that appeared and vanished. Someone wanted Lucas destroyed, using her, and she had no idea how to protect him. 2 weeks later, Amelia found a note on her windowsill, different from the others. Not hatred, pleading. One line, "Come alone, tonight. 42 to 36 12N as 69 to Hunter 6W, coordinates." She quickly searched them while Claire was busy, an old lighthouse several kilometers offshore on an island. She knew she should tell Lucas. Instead, when the clock struck midnight, she threw on a dark coat and slipped past the guards. Easier than she expected. They never imagined the boss's wife would simply walk out. They expected plots, schemes, complexity, not simplicity. A boat waited at the dock, empty. Amelia remembered her father teaching her to pilot one when she was 10, fishing on quiet rivers far from the city. Her hands remembered. Engine roaring, waves slamming the hull, moon so bright it shone only for her. The lighthouse rose from the dark like a ghost. White tower bathed in moonlight. She tied the boat and climbed the wooden stairs, each step echoing in the night. At the top, beneath the moon, she saw him. Not Lucas, an old man, thin, white-haired, eyes full of sorrow. "You shouldn't have come alone," he said. "The note said to," Amelia answered. "The note wasn't from me," he said. "I only deliver answers. I've guarded Grey Rock for 50 years. I was there 14 years ago." Amelia stepped back. "You know something about Ava." "I know everything," he said. "I know you're her cousin. I know you look alike. I know Lucas sees her every time he looks at you. And I know someone is using that to destroy him." Inside the lighthouse was a small keeper's room. On the table lay 2 things, an old wooden box and a letter. "Read the letter first," the guard said. It was addressed to Lucas. A woman's gentle hand, words forged in steel. "Lucas, if you are reading this, I couldn't come back myself. I cannot come back, because returning means death. Vincent Rizzo arranged the explosion. You remember him, the capo you banished for betrayal. He wanted revenge. He wanted to destroy you through Dominic. I was only the tool. I saw him plant the explosives. I saw his face. He saw mine. In that moment, I knew I was dead. If I stayed, if I returned, he would kill me slowly. And you, because you would try to save me. I did the only thing I could. I ran. I lived in Canada under another name, another life. I was a coward. Forgive me. But I did it so you both might live. You and Dominic. I didn't know Dominic was on the yacht. God, if I had known. Now I grow old in a foreign land, praying every day that you find happiness. If you find this note, you have found her. Protect her. Love her. She is your destiny, as I was your brother's. Do not let Vincent take her too. Her name is Amelia, and she is your second life. Ava. Amelia was crying before she knew it, tears streaming. The old guard handed her a handkerchief. It was damp. He had wept long before her. The wooden box held a diary, thick, worn, handwriting growing shakier with each page. The final entry, "I am alive. Forgive me, Lucas. I did it so you would live." That was all. "The coordinates are her location in Canada," the guard said. "A small fishing village. I sent letters years ago, never knowing if she still lived, if she would ever want to return. But that note telling you to come, it wasn't from her. It was from someone who wants Lucas to know, who wants him to suffer. When Amelia returned to Grey Rock, it was 4 a.m. She entered Lucas's apartments without knocking. He sat in an armchair in darkness, lit only by one candle, smoking a cigar he never touched by day. "You were at the lighthouse," he said without turning. "How did you know?" "I know everything that happens in my house. Everything. Even what I don't want to know." He turned. His face was ash and old grief. "What did you find?" She told him, every word. The letter, the diary, the coordinates, his brother's love hiding in northern Canada. Lucas listened in silence. Candle burned, cigar smoldered. When she finished, he stubbed it out, walked to the bathroom. Water ran. When he returned, his face was wet, eyes red, not from tears. Lucas did not cry, just water, cold water. "Tomorrow night we go," he said, "both of us, together." They drove through the night, Lucas at the wheel, speaking little. Hours across the border, through forests, past sleeping towns that had no idea a crime king and his wife were passing. The fishing village was small, poor, fish, nets, survival. The house they sought stood at the end of the main street, small white blue shutters. Lucas knocked. The woman who opened the door was ancient, hair snow white, face lined, eyes the same gray as Lucas's. "Lucas," she said, one word carrying oceans of pain, love, regret. She collapsed to her knees. Lucas lifted her. For the first time, Amelia saw Lucas Wentworth's hands tremble. "Mom brought me letters," Ava said. "The guard brought letters from Grey Rock. I read what you became, your power, your loneliness. I wanted to come home every day, but I couldn't. I was a coward." "You were alive," Lucas said. "That is all that matters." He stepped inside. Ava followed. Simple, honest, no luxury. Photographs on walls, books on shelves, a life built in exile. Then Ava looked at Amelia. You look like me." "We're cousins," Amelia said. "I only just learned." Ava touched her face as though it were sacred. "You are my family," she whispered. "I was so alone." Her voice broke. Her legs gave way. Amelia and Lucas caught her as she fell. She was burning with fever. In the tiny bedroom, they found medicine bottles, old doctor bills, illness, cancer, it seemed. She had been sick and alone. All those years, all that time, alone. Lucas sat by her bed 4 hours holding her hand. Amelia sat behind him, hand on his shoulder. No one spoke, only wind outside, waves, her breathing growing slower. In twilight, Ava opened her eyes. "Have you forgiven me?" she asked Lucas. "There is nothing to forgive," he said. "You saved my life. Now you must forgive yourself." Ava closed her eyes. "I cannot come home with you," she said. "I am too sick, too tired. But I can give you one thing. Vincent Rizzo is still alive, in Boston. His son Mark runs things now. They come to me in nightmares. They are guilty. They killed Dominic." Dawn was breaking when they returned to Grey Rock. Lucas went straight to the library. Amelia heard the calls, one after another, orders delivered in an icy voice. Meeting. Today. The pier. The council would know. Amelia lay in bed listening to her husband begin a war against enemies who had believed themselves safe for 15 years. And on the lighthouse floor, the diary's final entry glowed in moonlight. "I am alive. Forgive me, Lucas. I did it so you would live." She had been right. They all lived. But the price had been steep. The council meeting took place on a pier in Norfolk, neutral ground where no single family held absolute sway. Old wooden planks smelled of fish and salt. Gulls wheeled overhead, screaming of hunger and death. The 5 heads gathered around a table brought for the occasion. No paper, no witnesses, no traces. Only words flung between them like balls in a lifelong game. Lucas laid the evidence before them. Photographs of the yacht after the blast, lists of everyone on the pier that day, letters Vincent Rizzo sent his son boasting how he had solved the Dominic Wentworth problem and scared the ambitious little boy named Lucas. Financial records showing Vincent received $5 million the day of the explosion from someone inside, a mole, a traitor. Giovanni Morelli studied the documents through reading glasses, his face impassive, the face of a man who had seen so much blood it no longer shocked. "Serious accusations," he said, Italian accent thick as cream. "Vincent Rizzo is protected by the Carvalho family. His brother is married to the boss's daughter. If we declare Vincent guilty, we declare war on the Carvalhos." "Then let them know," Lucas said, voice cold as death. "Let them know I know. Let them know I am waiting." Thomas O'Brien drummed the table. "And the son? Mark Rizzo? He wasn't on the yacht." "No," Lucas agreed, "but he continued his father's work. He torments me through my wife, sends notes, burns old papers, tries to discover if Ava lives. He knows my power rests on that secret. If he learns she is alive, he will kill her to break me." Viktor Sokolov scratched the start of his scar. "Interesting," he said in a heavy Russian accent, "because the internet tells me 2 hours ago the Rizzo Bank was raided. Federal audit. Curious timing, no?" Lucas raised an eyebrow. Emilia, standing behind him, understood. The war had already begun, before the council even met. Alfredo Castillo gave a short, dry laugh. "Young wolf," he said, "you move fast, but old rules still apply. Before you kill a rival, you need the council's blessing." "I do not seek blessing," Lucas said. "I seek the absence of protest. I seek agreement that I have the right to protect my family, as all of you would." Silence. Deep, long. Waves slapped the pier. Gulls cried. Giovanni nodded first, then O'Brien, then Sokolov, then Castillo. 4 voices. 4 against 1, and that one belonged to a dead man. The Carvalho clan could not shield Vincent because the council had ruled the war just. Old laws still stood. Power, honor, vengeance. Holy numbers in Lucas's world. When the meeting ended, Lucas walked the pier with Emilia, her hand in his. Gulls flew overhead like ghosts of the past. "Vincent Rizzo will be found within a week," Lucas said. "Mark within a month. They cannot run. The council has closed every door. It is fair. It is honest. It is by the old laws." "They'll die?" Emilia asked. "No," Lucas said. "They will live. They will live every day knowing I orchestrated their ruin. That is worse than death. Death is an end. This is long, slow agony, knowing you lost and your enemy is king." Back at Grey Rock, Emilia found a letter on her desk. In Ava's handwriting, "Emilia, if you read this, I have told him the truth. I may not live to see you again, but know this. You saved him, simply by existing, simply by being there. For 14 years he was an iceberg drifting in darkness. You set him ablaze from within. I see it in his eyes when he looks at you. Love him. Protect him. Do not let him freeze again. Your cousin, Ava." Emilia wept holding the letter. Lucas found her in tears, said nothing, simply sat and held her as though she were the only living thing in the world, the only source of warmth in his frozen kingdom. That evening, Ava called, her voice faint, distant as wind from another country. "I have made my choice," she said. "I will not fight anymore. I will not suffer longer. I will sleep soon. But I want to see him one last time. I want to bless you both. I want to see him live, love, survive." 3 days later, they returned to the lighthouse. Ava waited alone, wearing the white dress she had chosen for her death, a bride of death perhaps, her final wedding. She embraced Lucas, embraced Emilia, looked at them both and said, "You are what I could not be. Guard him. Love him. Make him human. He has been ice too long." Ava died that night at the top of the lighthouse, overlooking the Atlantic. Her death was peaceful, as though she had finally come home. Lucas and Amelia stayed with her body, hands clasped, listening to wind and waves. At dawn, they descended and called the people who needed calling. Ava Marino was buried in a small Canadian town as an unknown, but Lucas knew she had been a hero, a victim, beloved, and her sacrifice had meaning, because now Lucas was no longer alone. Now he had Amelia. A year passed like 4 seasons, grinding one person to dust and breathing another back to life. Vincent Rizzo was found in a Miami hotel, not killed, delivered to the council. His money seized, his operations dismantled brick by brick, his name erased from the book of the living. Alive yet dead. Worse. Mark Rizzo fled. Europe, Asia, vanished. Rumors said he carried bags in a Bangkok hotel under a false name, living in shadows, knowing his father had failed and he had lost everything. Lucas's power solidified. The council acknowledged him. Other families respected him. His dominion over the northeast coast became absolute, but none of it compared to what happened inside Grey Rock. Amelia moved from the room beside his into his bed. Then, when her father visited Rockland for the first time, they renovated the Eastern Tower wing. New bedroom, new bath, new rooms, space for a family, space for a life that was not war, not blood, not honor and vengeance, space for love. Jacob Lawrence, Amelia's father, met Lucas in the study. One man rich, one poor, one ruler of a criminal empire, one owner of a tiny bakery smelling of bread and warm milk. "Thank you for taking care of her," Jacob said. "She took care of me," Lucas replied. "I was a block of ice until she came. Now I am a living man." Jacob smiled, and Amelia, listening through the wall, understood her father saw more in Lucas than a crime lord. He saw a man who loved his daughter. Nathan arrived from New York. Amelia had not seen her brother in nearly a year. He was thin, haunted. The theft had left scars. "I asked Lucas not to kill you," she told him when they were alone. "I asked him to let you live." He agreed. "Why?" "For me," Amelia said. "He needs me more than vengeance." Nathan wept. Amelia wept with him, because in the world of Wentworths and Rizzos, love was rarer than grace. The day before their first anniversary, Lucas asked Amelia to meet him at the lighthouse. She thought he meant the old one in Canada, but that evening she found him at the local lighthouse, the one that felt like a bridge between worlds. Full moon, calm waves. Lucas stood inside holding 2 objects. "Remember what I said our first night?" he asked. "I said you were free once the debt was paid. On the anniversary of our wedding night, the debt is paid." He opened his hand. A box. Inside, keys to the little bakery that had once been her family's home, title deeds, a one-way ticket from Rockland to her old town. "You are free," Lucas said. "I release you. You may leave. Return to your old life. Forget all this. Forget me." Amelia stared at the ticket. "I don't want to leave," she said. "I know," Lucas said, "but you must choose. Not because you owe me, not because you must, because you want to. I need your love, not your debt." Amelia tore the ticket, then the deeds. Then she fell to her knees before him. "I stay," she said. "I stay here in Grey Rock with you, and I will never run from you again, because you are no longer just my husband. You are my life, my fate, my home." Lucas drew another box from his pocket. "This is a new ring," he said, engraved with the lighthouse coordinates and the words, "Come home, because you are my home. You always will be." He lifted her and kissed her, a real kiss, not a seal of power but a confession of love, relentless, eternal, absolute. They renewed their vows that night, not in the chapel, on the lighthouse. Only witnesses the Atlantic and the moon. The old priest was brought because Lucas's people knew everything and arranged everything. But it was mere formality. Their marriage had already been sealed in blood, fear, and now love. When dawn came, they lay in the center of the lighthouse, wrapped in each other, listening to the waves. "I love you," Amelia said, "more than anything in this world." "I know," Lucas said, voice soft as night. "And I love you. I love you because you saved me from the ice. I love you because you give me a reason to live that has nothing to do with power and blood. I love you because you are my second life." They returned to Grey Rock beneath high sun. At the manor gates, Lucas stopped the car. They stepped out together. There, beside the entrance, was fresh earth. Lucas carried a pot containing a white jasmine bush, flowers like snow, like innocence, like new beginnings. "This is jasmine," he said, "symbol of beauty and affection. I want it to grow here, at the threshold of our home. I want everyone who comes to Grey Rock to see this bush and know that here lives not only a mafia king, but a man who loves, a man with a heart." He planted the jasmine with Amelia, their hands together in the soil, planting new life into Grey Rock's ground. "Now this is our home," Lucas said, "forever. Not because we must be here, but because we want to be, together." That night, in the bed that was now theirs, Amelia looked at her new ring, the lighthouse coordinates engraved in gold, the words, "Come home." "I will always come home to you," she said. "I know," Lucas answered, "and I will always be waiting, until the end of time." Fog rolled in from the Atlantic as always. Waves crashed against the rocks as always. But in Grey Rock, in the eastern tower room, two people slept in each other's arms, and for the first time in 14 years, Lucas Wentworth slept without nightmares. For the first time in 14 years, the king of the underworld was not alone. And below, before the manor gates, the white jasmine glowed in moonlight, like a promise of new life, a promise that even in the darkest heart, even in a criminal empire, even in mafia families built on fear and power, love can bloom, beautiful, pure, relentless love. End epilogue. 2 years later, Grey Rock was festive. Lights, flowers, music. This time no wedding, no council, only celebration of a birth. Lucas and Amelia's son, named Dominic after the brother Lucas had lost, was born beneath stars when the moon was as full as a mother's heart. Amelia held the infant in the eastern tower room, the same room where a year earlier she'd feared she might die of terror. Now it was filled with light, warmth, life. Lucas entered with 2 glasses of champagne. He looked at his son, and his cold gray gaze melted into tenderness. "Hello, my son," he whispered. "I promise you will never live in the darkness I knew. I promise you will know love. You will know kindness. You will know there is light on earth, not only blood and power." Amelia smiled, hands trembling with joy, exhaustion, the absolute miracle of her life. From the window they could see the jasmine bush, now tall, branches thick, flowers exquisite. Even in Grey Rock, even in a house of crime and power, beauty could grow. Even in the heart of a predator, even in a criminal empire, love could blossom. And Lucas Wentworth, king of the Northeast Coast, held his wife and his son, grateful to the fate that had led him here, that had given him this life, that had taught him cold can be conquered, ice can melt, and even the blackest hearts can learn to love, because of one woman, one note, and one destiny written in the stars.